If you're dealing with excessive amounts of weight, you're overwhelmed, chronically stressed out, you need caffeine to wake up in the morning, feel like your blood sugar levels are all over the place, chance that your sleep-wake cycle is out of rhythm. We'll reel that thing back in, so we have some.
So the rope touches my left heel.
With peppers, onions.
Well, in today's video, we're going to be talking about circadian health. More importantly, we're going to be talking about your circadian rhythm. Some of you may have heard this term before, but essentially it's your sleep-wake cycle, right? So what circadian rhythm is the internal system, the internal clock that regulates your sleep-wake cycle. So this relationship between being awake and being asleep. We want to have a harmony, a balance between the two, okay? Because this is going to have a key effect on your hormones. So we want to regulate our hormones through our sleep-wake cycle. And it's going to have a huge effect on your weight because of the hormone regulation component of this. So our circadian rhythm is essentially our sleep-wake cycle. It's the internal system, the internal clock that regulates the balance between us being awake and us being asleep. Okay, there's a couple of key points I want to hit on about your circadian rhythm and really getting this thing into balance here. Your dream data checklist at the end here. So there's a couple of key points we want to talk about this. When we talk about your circadian rhythm, we're really referring to the fact that it is signaled by light. Okay, light meaning the sun, of course, but I have this light right here. There's a light on back there. There's a light on in the kitchen. There's 2 ring lights here so you can see this better. There's actually 3 lights like this all around me. These lights, the blue lights that are being emitted from them, are signaling to my body that it's a specific time. The blue lights in the phones, in the iPads, the TVs, all the things, the lights I have going on here, they emit the same blue light, while albeit not as strong as the sun. It's not as strong as the sun around midday. And so these lights are telling my body to secrete cortisol accordingly. Okay, so that's a really important point to understand. We're going to come back to that. But our circadian rhythm is ultimately signaled by light. And so the first light you see in the morning is going to signal to your body what time of the day it is and what to hormonally do, right? Because we have like reproductive hormones and we have the hormones that regulate our metabolism and our sleep-wake cycle. Okay, so again, 2 key points you really want to understand. Your sleep-wake cycle is signaled by light. And the key to your hormone regulation, to regulating hormones, is understanding how to get your sleep-wake cycle in a good rhythm. So we're not going to go crazy into the hormonal component of this. I'm going to talk about the hormones in another video. But the one thing I do want you guys to understand is when we talk about your sleep-wake cycle, it's really the relationship between 2 hormones, cortisol and melatonin, right? So hopefully you guys can see this, cortisol and melatonin. And when I say melatonin, I don't mean the pill at the pharmacy. Please do not buy it. Essentially, when you wake up first thing in the morning, what wakes you up is cortisol. Okay, so cortisol gets you up out of bed. So this little axis here is gonna be you waking up. So cortisol is released. And around midday or so, whenever it is, I forget the exact time, it peaks, and then throughout the afternoon, it actually slowly starts to come back down. And so this line I just drew here is going to be sunset, because around sunset is when it should be pretty damn low. Now, on the other hand, melatonin, which is going to be my blue marker here, is pretty damn low all day, you know? If you guys don't know what melatonin does, it's essentially what puts you to sleep at night and keeps you asleep. It is responsible for deep sleep. So it's really low all day, and when sunset hits, the lights in the sunset, the spectrum of lights, actually signal to our body to secrete melatonin and be like, yo, it's bedtime. Nature's so cool. So then when sunset hits, boom, melatonin spikes. And that's what makes you sleepy. That's what puts you to bed, all the things. So we want this relationship to be in harmony. So again, light exposure is critical to understand because it signals these things. Like I said, the sunlight can signal how much cortisol to release first thing in the morning, just like the blue lights in my technology here are doing that. As well as the sunset, the spectrum of light in the sunset will signal to your body to release melatonin. Okay? So what are some habits we can get into to really start to dial this thing in and get our hormones into a good balance? So when we talk about our dream data checklist, our daily habit checklist, add these to your list. These are some simple habits that are going to go such a long way for your health, guys. So first things first is morning sunlight. This one's important. This is probably one of the most important ones. This is what's going to set the foundation for your hormones for the rest of the day. So think about it like this. I'm in the basement of this house here, right? There's a support beam under the house. Could you imagine if the support beams of this house or even your house were made from Jell-O, right? It's the foundation of your house is made from Jell-O. How comfortable are you going to feel sleeping in that thing if you're on the second or third story? You know what I mean? So we want to set the foundation for our hormonal health first thing in the morning. So we want to get the technology out of the room so that the first light we see is the sunlight. So first hour or two that the sun's up, get outside, go get it. Go get that morning D, okay? So morning sunlight is key within the first hour or two that it's up. Next thing, blue light exposure. Guys, I cannot emphasize this one enough as somebody who is using technology all day, every day. Remove the phone from your room, get the television out of your room, or don't sleep with it on at the least, please. The blue lights in our technology are going to signal to your body that it's midday. When it does that, it's going to signal your body to secrete cortisol accordingly. So if you're having a hard time staying asleep, if you're having a hard time falling asleep, the TV is not going to help. It might temporarily get you to bed, but long term, it's just going to jack up your hormones a little bit more. And if you have chronically elevated cortisol and you're storing a lot of belly fat, there's a reason for that right there. Those two things are connected. So we want to get the blue light exposure. We want to minimize it around bedtime and around waking up, because first thing in the morning, we want to get that morning sunlight. Before bed, we don't want to be getting, for lack of a better phrase, this is all I got right now, I fucked by the phone, which is telling us that it's midday and we need to secrete cortisol accordingly, okay? Next up, nutrient timing. So you can eat breakfast first thing in the morning. It's totally cool. I'm not going to tell you that you have to wait 17 hours. But we want to have a blood sugar friendly breakfast. Blood sugar friendly breakfast. So high protein, high fiber, high fat. Those three things are important, all right? High protein, high fiber, high fat. This way we're not getting crazy blood sugar spikes first thing in the morning. Like if you were to have like 3 tablespoons of table sugar, you're going to get a crazy blood sugar spike. It's going to mess with your insulin levels, and that's going to secrete more cortisol as well. So it can throw us into a hormonal pandemonium. So nutrient timing, blood sugar friendly breakfast. It can be first thing in the morning. It's totally cool. And cut off food 2, 3, even 4 hours before bed. That way you're not getting those blood sugar spikes before bed, which can spike your cortisol more, which can disrupt melatonin, right? The name of this is we're trying to get this rhythm back in order. We're trying to get this rhythm back in order. So, melatonin and cortisol. So nutrient timing. So first thing in the morning, blood sugar friendly breakfast. Before bed, try to cut off food 2 to 4 hours before bed. And then caffeine intake. This one's important too, because if you're using caffeine to wake you up in the morning, caffeine is going to spike your cortisol almost immediately. It's great. I'm not saying get rid of your caffeine. I'm a huge caffeine person. I love my morning cup of coffee. I'm not saying get rid of it. What I'm saying is push it until after breakfast. Push it till 90 minutes to 2 hours after you wake up. So that way your body doesn't become dependent on that for your cortisol spike, and cortisol can naturally elevate, and then it can naturally come down at the end of the night so that melatonin can release and you can fall asleep. Sleep is super important for fat loss, guys. I cannot emphasize this enough. Cutting calories isn't going to be that important if your sleep-wake cycle is jacked up. So let's get this in order. These are some of the habits you want to add into your day. We got more videos to come to talk about circadian rhythm, the hormones that go along with it, and I'll see you guys in the next.
So the rope touches my left heel.
With peppers, onions,